welcome back to Project Celebrating Singles. I am your host, Christy, and I am here with my friend Heather today. And we are so excited to have this chat with you, Heather. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So, here with Project Celebrating Singles, our goal and our mission is to change the way the world experiences singleness. We have been a group of friends that have been talking about this for a while and honestly are just unsatisfied with the way currently our society kind of has this mindset about single people. And we're on a mission to change that. And so we thought, hey, we have a bunch of amazing friends who are living incredible lives, and they also happen to be single. And so we decided, why not share these stories? Why not get these stories out there to really help other single people realize and recognize the value and the importance of the season that we have of being single, but also really just to take a huge sledgehammer to these lies that when you're single, you're less than, or you're on the JV squad, or your life hasn't started yet. And so I'm really excited, Heather. If you want to just give a quick intro. So Heather and I met through mutual friends. We actually both happen to live in Hawaii, which is pretty cool.
Mhm.
So that's fun. But Heather, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. So like Christy said, I met through a mutual friend, and I get to live on the big island of Hawaii in paradise. It's incredible. And I work for a nonprofit organization, and I do humanitarian work. I'm a photographer. And I also do life coaching and like mentorship. It's the best to have the best job.
Oh, that's so good. So good. Well,
Yeah.
Heather, you are full of amazing nuggets, and I've just always loved whenever we get together. I learned so much. So I've
Mm,
really been looking forward to this episode with you, Heather.
me
So I
too.
want to start out, um, when we think about singleness, there are definitely some positive sides to singleness, but there are also some cons and some negative sides to singleness. And I just thought, let's go ahead and just start there. Like, let's get raw, let's get real. That's one of the things I love about you, Heather, is you're not afraid to be just real. And so I would
Totally.
love to hear kind of like, what has this journey been like for you as a single? What are some of the positive sides? What are some of the hard parts? If you just want to talk
Sure.
towards that.
Yeah, you want the negative or the positive first?
Let's just rip off the Band-Aid. Let's talk about the hard stuff first. Why not?
Okay. Yeah. So I would say clearly the hard stuff is companionship and having someone that's like near and dear and sharing life with. I think, yeah, the negative side of that is like there's just this longing like in my heart. There's a longing in my heart to be a mom, to be a wife. But ultimately, I mean, you got to take the steps first. Like the biggest longing in my heart, or one of them, is for me to be a girlfriend. And so, yeah, it's like I deeply long for connection. I deeply long for companionship. So, just even like the littlest of things. Today, I was helping out my friend with her car light. It went out, and so I've gotten to change like some myself. Watch a YouTube video, YouTube University, and I'm like, you know
Love
what?
it.
I
Me
could.
too.
There's
Me
a
too.
part of
Teaches
me.
me everything about my car.
I mean, there's a part of me that's like, dang it, I just want a man to do this. But there's like a side of me that's like, you know what? I need to buckle up. I need to do this. It needs to be done. And I don't want to spend, a couple $100s to go change a light bulb in my car, you know? So I would say like, I mean, I guess that's like a negative and a positive. It's like, oh, the negative's like, man, I wish a guy could just do this for me. Or just even like the security of a male too, like going out or um, just that reassurance that someone's gonna like take care of you and protect you. So I would say that's definitely like a negative side of being single is yeah, just like things I don't want to have to deal with, I have to deal with. And it just seems like it'd be a lot easier if there was a man in my life.
Yeah, so real. I know. I often
Hmm.
actually, I'll give a little plug for the app Thumbtack because that is
Oh.
really helpful. It's like an app where you can hire people to help you with like handyman things.
Oh,
So
really?
I
Okay.
often joke, this is not a paid advertisement for Thumbtack, but I definitely have, yeah, used that a time or three for those
Sure.
random situations. But I guess it is such a good call out, right? Where it's like, it's
Yeah.
definitely a con not to have someone in your life that where typically like maybe like a husband would do those types of things. But I also love
Hmm.
the different things that I have learned. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can do this. Like, wow, this is,
Hmm.
I can jump a
Yeah.
car. I can change a tire. on the side of the
Hmm.
road. Like, okay, like, and
Yeah.
like I can walk home late at night and like actually not be scared. Like, I'm okay. Like, I can hold my own kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it is a con, but then I think sometimes those things can also like be confidence boosters to be like, wow, I actually
Oh,
can do
for
this and I can
sure.
do something that I didn't think I could before, which is always fun too. And way to go,
Hmm.
being such a good girlfriend to go help your friend change
Yeah.
the light
I know
in her
they're all
car.
like high-fiving me, and I'm like, guys, you could do this, like, let me just encourage you, get empowered,
Great.
you can go and do this.
All right, there we go. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
now that we just ripped off the band-aid, let's go to some of the
Sure.
positive sides of
Yeah.
like we also get to do things in this season of singleness that maybe would be harder or maybe not as easy to do
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
in the future. So talk to me about
Absolutely.
what that's looked like in your life.
Sure. I think like real practically, I'm leaving this week to go to Amsterdam to go visit actually a roommate that I used to live with. And
Come on.
that's like a huge, I think, plus of being single, right? Like I didn't need to
I
tell
love
anyone
it.
my agenda or I had the time, I had the funds. I didn't have to communicate with someone or incorporate someone into my plans or, if I should do this or not. And I just did it. I was just like, you know
I
what?
love
I want
it.
to go and see her. I want to go to Europe. I want to be cold because, believe it or not, living in Hawaii, you do miss the seasons. You definitely do. And
Oh, I don't know. I'm
so
good. I'm chilling over here, but
you're good.
I hear you.
Okay.
Some people do.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say, being single, that's definitely a plus for sure. Is these are your own finances, your own time. You don't have to incorporate someone else. Also, you get to spend a lot more time with like your girlfriends.
Hmm.
So you can just like
So
have them
good.
over whenever you want. You can host them, have them over. Yeah, again, like do another quick trip to Oahu or whatever, and just kind of like live it up. I'm like such an adventure seeker girl. So anytime that I could go be with my girlfriends or go on a hike or do something fun, like I'm all for it.
I know you do such a good job of this, by the way, in Hawaii. I'm constantly watching your stories, and I'm like, you get to just, yeah, you have all the fun. I love it. It's very
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I love it.
Hmm.
And that flexibility is so real and so
Hmm.
nice to have, right? And I
Yeah.
think so many people, so too often, people spend, at least when I talk to different girlfriends, they'll put off that trip. They'll be like, I've always wanted to go to Paris,
Hmm.
but I'm going to wait
Yeah.
until I get in a relationship to go. And I'm like, no, like why let the future
No.
steal from now? Go to Paris now and then go back with your future husband someday.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a good
why
point.
wait for Paris?
Hmm.
Go now. Like, book
Yeah.
the flight, right? And so I think too often we see people kind of delaying certain trips or certain things
Mm,
once it's like for the future potential of a future relationship. And
you're
I'm
so
a
right.
really big fan of encouraging people to like, hey, if there is something on your heart, like, what if you go meet your future husband in Paris? Like, I would not wait. If you really want to get to Paris, like get there, right? Frenchman,
Yeah.
okay, like let's go
Yeah.
for it. But
Yeah.
I think I love what you're talking about of just like the flexibility, right, that we have
The
as
flexibility.
singles,
Hmm.
um, the quality time that we get to build and invest in friendships, so
Yeah.
important. That's definitely something that we talk about in our online course.
Hmm.
So plug for that. In the online course, we
Hmm.
talk about really building healthy friendships and actually how to
Mm.
build a legacy as you build community and how to build a legacy outside of a biological family and how amazing that is of an opportunity to do as a single. And so you don't have
Hmm.
to wait for that. And so I
Yeah.
love that that's what you get to go do even this week in
Yeah.
Amsterdam. We
Yeah.
didn't even plan
For
that, but that's
sure.
great.
Or
So
just
good.
even like giving time for new hobbies too, for other hobbies that you love. Like for me, I
Yes.
am a pickleball queen. So I am gonna give like any time that anyone wants to play, I am there, because
I love it.
I make the time for it, I can do it. Or really paddleboarding, whatever. I'm even getting into golfing a little bit. So definitely even having the flexibility to just like pursue these sports and hobbies as well.
Yes. So
Hmm.
good. Wait, I need
Yeah,
you,
fun.
total disclaimer. I have not played pickleball. I am like the only one left,
What?
I think. That's
What?
never played pickleball. So I need you to
It
take me
is
sometime. We'll have to go.
highly, highly, highly addictive, but yeah,
I
it's the best.
know. I honestly, I feel like
Yeah.
that's why I'm definitely getting addicted. I don't know if I have time in my schedule, but I guess we'll
Yeah.
create the time.
Okay, I'll
So
call you
cool.
out on it.
I know you can totally.
Okay.
I'm in for sure. Okay, so maybe pivoting just slightly, but I felt as I was
Sure.
kind of preparing for this chat, I feel like you have some nuggets that I really have
Mm,
enjoyed just getting to know you. And I want
mhm.
to go after maybe some harder topics that I think
Yeah,
some of our listeners will really benefit from your perspective, Heather. And so we're going to kind of go in a little bit,
sure.
but I just am curious kind of what you have to share on this. Specifically, I want to start with the topic of loneliness. So you kind
Mm,
of alluded to this
mhm.
at the beginning of our chat of just like that longing for companionship, right? That's so
Yeah,
real. And so many of
yeah,
us can relate to that. And I'm just curious, like, if you have some tips or even some stories of
yep.
ways that you have
Mhm.
kind of worked to overcome that loneliness.
Sure. Yeah, so I would say a big part of being single, like, yeah, I guess a big downfall of that too is loneliness. And, I
Hmm.
believe like we were created for intimacy. We were created for like someone to deeply long and love us. And so, yeah, I would say the best way that I think that I have been combating my loneliness is actually to serve others so well and to love others
Wow.
so well. It's like to really like pour into others, encourage others, and my mom would
You
always
do
say
this
like the
so well, Heather.
oh,
You do
thank
this so
you.
well.
Yeah. And I think, truly like walking alongside like other sisters and brothers and just being real with them. Like I have a small group that meets once a week, and we get real with each other. And I think it's so important, to have your people that you can let your hair down, you can be real, you can be raw, and just be like, these are areas where I'm struggling with or I need help with. And so typically when I get to that point of like loneliness, I know for me, the flip side of that is actually this is a season to radically pour out. Like this is a season to love well, to serve well. And I know for me, that's really what has helped combat the loneliness. It's not that it goes away. It doesn't. No, trust, like there's something in me that's, longs, it's a desire of my heart, right, to get married. But I would say like in this season specifically, um, I have been, yeah, pouring into others, loving others well. Just even like what I mentioned about changing someone's light bulb, that's someone I work
Yeah.
with. She's younger than me, so she's like a younger generation. And like what brings me joy, a big part of like the joy at the end of the day is taking time and doing life with others.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I think I interrupted. You were about to say my
Hmm.
mom always said. So I don't know if you remember
Mm,
what your
yeah.
mom
Yeah.
what her advice would be. I'm curious. I'm like,
Sure.
what does
Sure.
mom
So
have
my
to
mom
say?
would always say the test becomes the testimony. So
Okay,
when
that's
we're put
good.
through refining moments and times that really test our character, um, you know, uh, there's always a side of conquering, even if you're not
Yeah, for
really
sure.
sensing it or seeing it yet. But I truly do believe that we come to this place of overcoming. And I know for me,
So
like
good.
I just shared, like overcoming my loneliness. Well, a lot of it has to do with my faith, but also being surrounded with like-minded friends, being
So good.
surrounded in a group of community of others um, that champion me as well. Because also, this is
So
another thing my mom
important.
always says, like sometimes, typically what we put out is what we need. So if I'm putting out
So
a lot of
real.
encouragement and this and that, I actually need to be affirmed and loved and encouraged. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's so
just
good.
remember, yeah, the
Well,
test always becomes a testimony. Hmm.
I love it.
Hmm.
I love it. Well, and
Hmm.
like look at what you've done too. I think a big hurdle for people to get over is like this self-pity. Like,
Yeah.
why not me? They start
Hmm.
or even comparison, right? Like, oh, I have so many friends with like my sister got a husband. Like, how did she get a husband? Kind of thing, like
Yeah.
before me, or this friend got married before me. And it's
Hmm.
just like this downward cycle of self-pity,
Yep.
and
Hmm.
you can really hang out in that and it will steal
Mm.
from you. Like it will totally steal from you.
Oh, for
But if you
sure.
can get out from that hurdle and get and overcome that self-pity and start actually pouring out into other people. I love
Mhm.
that. I think that is a
Mhm.
huge practical way to just get in a
Mhm.
healthier mindset about your life and to really use this time where you do have typically you have more time, you have more bandwidth, more capacity, right? Where you
Mhm.
can pour
Yeah.
into other people's lives, whether that be other coworkers. I love that, right? Like you're helping out your
Mhm.
younger coworkers or other people in
Yeah.
your community. I think this is such a practical next step for someone if they're like sitting in like these unhealthy thought patterns and can't seem to get out of this cycle. It's like, okay, you've literally got to just like take a step
Yeah.
out of your own life and like
Yep.
make it not about you for a
Mhm.
little bit. And honestly, such a game changer and really
It
starts to
is.
put things into perspective.
Mhm. And it goes hand in hand with gratitude. I feel like getting to that place of
Wow.
serving and loving others, it really goes to this place of gratitude. Like reflect on, like where you've been before or just, even like the real practical things, like being grateful for living in Hawaii, the set of friends that I have, the job that I work. And I think when we get to this place of gratitude, like you're such a happier person, way more joyful and just full of life and passion. I feel like people when you have like straight up passion, like people will seek out what you have and they'll come.
So good. So good.
And I mean,
So good.
anytime you see someone that's so passionate about something, you're like, what do they have that I don't have? Like, what is the secret
Yes.
ingredients? Like, what is the secret sauce? What is the key? Because I want that.
So
And I know a
good.
lot of it has to do
Well,
with gratitude and thankfulness. Hmm.
I agree. I love that too. That is such a good practical tool to practice
Hmm.
every day if you can, right? Like starting the day
Yeah.
with gratitude, I think is so helpful. Fun fact, most people know this, but if you don't, the same part of your brain that processes anxiety processes thankfulness and gratitude. So
I
it's
didn't know
actually
that.
humanly
Wow.
impossible to be anxious and thankful in the same moment, which is why
Wow.
gratitude works so well. Like neuroscience has proven that this is
Yeah.
actually like a very, very significant tool to get out of anxiety, to get out of depression, is
Mm.
to literally make a gratitude list. And so I think that's another really practical tool to add to your
Hmm.
toolkit to get out of loneliness, to get out of self pity, and to
Hmm.
overcome like these negative thought patterns that can often come and be associated with singleness.
Yeah.
Um, I love Heather kind of like where you're going with um I think just like living community and having other people
Hmm.
that are in your life to encourage you. I think sometimes as singles, I know for me there have been different parts of my life where I just kind of ended up in friendships that, to be honest, weren't helpful, and I
Mm.
didn't really know how to get out of them. And so that's another thing actually that we kind of talk through in the online course is to how to take an inventory of your relationships and
Mm.
start to identify the relationships that are helping you achieve your goals and the relationships that are not helping you achieve your goals. And the reality is sometimes you literally, I mean, like you would like prune a plant. You have to like
Yeah.
prune how you're spending your time and who you're spending your time with
Mm.
in order to achieve your long-term goals. And that doesn't mean it's not bad. Like you have to be in charge of your life and you've got to be able
Yeah.
to like realize like this relationship is not helping me achieve the long-term goals, or
Hmm.
this relationship in its state is not. And so I have to have a hard conversation with that friend, right? To be able to say,
Sure.
hey, like the way that, we interact is like not actually helping me. I have to make some changes.
Hmm.
I think that's a really, really like also like a really good practical thing for people to take away and think about in their life. So that's really, really good.
Oh,
I love it.
absolutely.
One thing that I'll just mention that you reminded me of that I'll also share just as another tidbit is having people in your life that are in different stages. And so for me, that's been like being
Hmm.
intentional with my friends who, when they get married and they have kids, to not just like drop off the face of the earth. Because I did that for
Yeah.
like a long time. I was just like, I don't really understand babies and newborn feedings and all these other things that they're talking
Yeah.
about. And so I just kind of like started bowing out. But what I realized is actually I need to be able to keep those friendships because then it helps me not to like think the grass is always greener. Because to be
So true.
real, like my friends who are newborn moms who are literally waking up every 2 hours, like
Yeah.
it's
Feeding.
intense. It's really
Hmm.
hard. And I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
that one Friday night last month that I felt lonely, not that hard compared to getting up every two
So
hours
true.
to feed a child that's now depending on you for the next 20 some years.
Yeah.
Not that that's
Yeah.
not also beautiful, which it is. I actually just got back from spending time
Hmm.
with my friend and her newborn, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
I
me
love
too.
it. And I'm totally like,
Mm.
I'm like, okay, I could be a mom. Like, I could do this.
Yeah.
But at
Yeah.
the same time, it helps me to be grateful for the season that I currently have, where I don't have
Yes.
to get up every 2 hours and I
Yes.
get to sleep for longer than that. And so I think keeping friends in your life, like being intentional with the relationships of people in different seasons, can make sure you're not like always thinking the grass is greener. It can help you to be grateful
Yeah.
for what you do have in your life and to
Hmm.
celebrate the positives of your life. Because whenever I get around my married friends or my friends that are parents, they're constantly asking me about my travel. They're constantly asking me about all the
Hmm.
things I'm doing
Yeah.
because they're like, nothing's new in my life. Like, we had another like tooth fairy visit, like that was our highlight of
Too
the month,
very visit.
kind of thing. And so,
Uh-huh.
which again, not that those things are not also cool,
No,
but
yeah.
different, right,
Hmm.
than what we're
Hmm.
experiencing. So, okay, back to you,
Yeah.
Heather. I want to
Sure,
ask you
sure.
another hard question.
Yeah.
So, in addition to loneliness, something else that I
Hmm.
would say is a really, really big hurdle for people who are single is dealing with rejection. And
Mm.
so, I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, what does that look like for you? Have you ever dealt with this? Do you have any
Mm.
stories that you can talk towards in dealing with
Yeah.
rejection? Because that's a hard one.
Yeah. Rejection sucks. And for all those that have felt rejection or been rejection, I'm so sorry. It is a terrible feeling. Um, but there's
So
always
true.
a silver lining. I feel like there's always a silver lining. There's always something to learn and grow in. Yeah, I've definitely been rejected a couple times. In my last relationship, um, I had this moment where, how's the best way to explain it? It was like the defining moment of we're either breaking up or we're not. And we needed like 3 days. He needed 3 days to, seek counseling or just seek guidance to, see if we're going to stay together. It's pretty traumatic. But I remember I felt so much peace with my decision because I wanted, I feel like us women, when we commit, it's like deep, it's like depth,
Mm,
you know? And so, like, in that moment, I remember I had so much peace as he's like making this decision. And I remember so boldly, I told him, and I'm like, um, so and so, I am willing to fight for you and for our relationship, but I don't think you're willing to fight for me. I said that straight to his face. And, I did not get the
dang.
response I wanted. I actually got the response of him. Um, I mean, the best way to explain it, he was like a boy. He couldn't make the decision, and he like stumbled out of the room and was so anxious and worried and upset. And in that moment, of course, that was so vulnerable for me to say that. It was so raw, it was so vulnerable, and of course, the longing and depth of my heart is, I want someone to say, Heather, I am willing to fight for you. I am going to fight for you. And the thing is, that is a good thing because I believe like in the male DNA, everything about them is like fighting for the survival to the fittest.
Mm,
If you look at like the Chinook salmon, when it's time for them to spawn, to breed, they have to go from the Pacific Ocean and swim upward to the stream where they were birthed. So they have to face many challenges and
what?
struggles, and literally it's an upward journey of kind of life or death for them to reproduce. And so everything within like
Dang,
the
that's
male
so
DNA, yeah,
interesting.
isn't that crazy? Like everything
That's
within the
crazy.
male DNA is about like pursuit and fighting. And of course, the more I've processed that relationship, him and I weren't meant to be together. Um, and I would say through my healing and journey and all of that, the opposite actually is I am desirable. I am
Yes.
wanted. And he just wasn't the
Yes.
one. And I believe like the word that I can claim over myself is I am desirable and I am worth being fought for. And, maybe it's going to
Come
take a little
on.
bit more time, but the more that I'm on this journey of understanding who I am, and what I've walked through and what I've gone through, I am worthy of all these things. I
So
am
good.
completely worthy of these things. So, yeah, and,
All
there's been another
right.
time
Yes,
too
you
of,
are.
yeah, there's been like another time too of recently more of being rejected, but it doesn't feel as painful. Like in a sense for me, it's more so of like, oh, okay, he just wasn't the one, or he wasn't ready, or
Right.
he wasn't willing to commit. And you know what? I'm actually going to bless him instead. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm not going to be bitter. I'm not going to be upset. but instead I'm going to bless him. He's not the one for me, but bless his journey. And yeah, I think that the more I'm understanding myself and yeah, I guess this journey that I'm going on, it's almost like, how do I say this? It's like I'm kind of weeding out the losers because I know I'm
I love
worthy
it.
of, the
Yes.
man of my life, the knight and
So
shining
good.
armor. Absolutely. I'm going to get the knight and shining armor. So,
Let's
yeah.
go. All right. I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
Heather, that's so good. And like, I love, honestly, it's something we've been talking about as this like kind of like project team or whatever, this lie of scarcity where
Mm,
it's like, oh my gosh, like if this doesn't work out, like how am I going to find someone else? Or like, is there any other person for me? Like if this
mm-hmm.
one person doesn't work out, and it's such
Yeah.
like a weird like mind warp, honestly. Like it's a total mind
Oh,
warp. I'm like, wait a
absolutely.
minute, there are
Mm-hmm.
literally 7 billion people in the world. We just recently learned 46% of adult Americans are single. There
I
are
heard that.
plenty of people out there. And yet so many
Mm-hmm.
people get so attached to this one option. And when it doesn't work out, it's like devastating. And
Yeah.
I just feel like you are unlocking like an abundant mindset of like,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute, like if this person like doesn't see me for the amazing woman I am and like the
Mm-hmm.
valuable person that I am and isn't willing to fight for me, then they're not the one. And like I'm
Yeah.
ready to wait for the one that's amazing and that does
Mm-hmm.
see me for who I am. And that is a
Mm-hmm.
woman who knows her value. Like you're not going to settle for anything less
Totally.
than like, your best. And I think that is so important as we think about this journey as a single is like unlocking that abundant mindset and not getting
Mm-hmm.
stuck in that like total negative downward spiral of scarcity. I just think
Totally.
it steals so much and it's such a weird thing. I'm like, it really like rationally doesn't make sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's like probably too many options at this point, especially with technology now. It's like our
Mm,
options have never been more, right? It's not like,
yeah.
most people are like in one town, with no access to meet anyone else. Like, it's like, especially in
Mm-hmm.
Hawaii, it's like, who knows, we're going to meet tomorrow at the beach, right? It's like, there's so many
Exactly.
people. But
Yeah.
if you don't live in Hawaii, there are plenty of other ways that you can meet
There
a
is.
lot of amazing people, right? There's really no rational reason to get in that scarcity
Yeah.
mindset. But I see it so often when I'm talking to
Yeah.
different people or when I'm coaching different people, that scarcity mindset really does steal. And I love
Mm-hmm.
where you're at, Heather. I just feel like you're in such a
Mm-hmm.
healthy place, which is
Mm,
why obviously we wanted to chat with you and why we wanted to get all the goods as to how you've walked this journey out. Because I love,
yeah.
you're not going to dwell on the person that clearly is acting like a boy. He's not able
Mm-hmm.
to handle a real conversation. He's not
Mm-hmm.
able to understand your value in order to be able to like, go after a relationship in a healthy way. And it's like,
Sure.
do not continue to try to make that work. Like so many
Mm-hmm.
people end up stuck in these unhealthy patterns of
Yeah.
trying to make that work or just hanging
Mm-hmm.
around because there isn't another better option out there and they don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be by themselves.
Yeah.
They like can't
Yeah.
handle being single. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, okay, let's talk about that. Get our online course,
Yeah.
hop on our podcast. Like, let's make sure that you're not
Yeah.
stuck in a bad relationship, right? Because if you're going to meet someone, you want to be in a place where you're single and you're healthy and you're ready. I
Mm-hmm.
love what you were talking about earlier, just like being in surrounded by someone who's passionate.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I'm coaching someone and talking with someone, I try to encourage them, like, you don't want to hang out in the pool that's desperate, that's not having any
Yeah.
fun, that's like
Mm-hmm.
totally stuck in despair, stuck in self-pity. Like people can pick that up on you and it ain't good.
Oh
And
yeah. It's
you're
stinky.
not gonna,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
you're not going to catch like the person that actually is like maybe going to be the best fit for you. Um,
Yeah.
and not that, if you are stuck in a bad place, it's not that you can't meet anyone. I want
Sure.
to make sure to like clarify that. Like there's all sorts of
Mm-hmm.
ways you can meet someone. And you do need to walk through life's hard times too with someone to really know if they're going to be a good partner for life.
That's true.
But
Yeah.
I do think there's a world where people start dating and they start in this relationship when they're in a really unhealthy state. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Now is not the time to be entering into a relationship. Now is not the time to be making that decision. Like,
Yeah.
start getting in the pool of like healthy people,
Mm-hmm.
which is why, honestly, we started this project is to help take people
Yeah.
through some practical incremental steps to get healthier in
I love
singleness.
that.
And then that community, then go make friends in that community, right? Like that's
Mm.
our heart
Yeah.
and our goal with this is like to get people through the online course, get all those people that have taken that course into a community. And so now you're hanging out with a really awesome pool of people that
Yeah.
have taken the time to take the growth mindset, right? Like, and got into a healthy place.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I just love how you're like, man, people are attracted to passion. People are attracted
Mhm.
to health. And if you want a healthy person, then we've got to do that ourselves, right? We got to go do that work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot
So,
of it, like what you're saying too, it boils down to like our values
mm, tell me
and our
more. Tell
value
me more.
system. Yeah. And, I would say like get to know yourself, get to see. I think a question you can ask yourself is, how can you serve like the other instead of be served in return? I think that will prepare you for sure for a relationship. Because I think, like our world tries to tell us that love is getting, right?
Mm,
Give, or sorry, I'm getting love in that way. But like, I truly believe love is giving, is serving
mm,
and putting others' needs before your own. So that's like a value that I carry is, you know, um, yeah, what can I offer? I think that's another good question to ask yourself. What can I offer in this relationship? Can I offer support? Can I offer empathy? Can I offer my cooking skills? Can I offer generosity? Can I offer, adventure and fun and uh, community and friendship building, things like that. I think if you start seeing it through that lens and even start like writing out your values now. That's something that I've been doing, like these are the values, these are the things that I'm going to, leave a legacy in my life. And I would say, a big part of that, yes, is my faith, but also like fun, like even values for fun, like what brings joy,
so good.
what makes me smile, and of course like other things that make me up too. It's like, oh, relational, like I'm such an extrovert, I need to be around people, and I need to have my hobbies, and this and that. Yeah, I think if you start looking through it that way of like your values and start building from there, then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna love that person well then, because you're starting to like love
So good.
yourself first, if that makes sense.
I love that,
Hmm.
Heather. It's so good. And it's so important when, honestly, sadly, in like American culture in particular, we get into like this consumer mindset. And I think like you can definitely start to like put that lens on a relationship and start to be thinking like pretty
Hmm.
selfishly of like, what is this doing for me? And so I love what you shared. Like, I really do feel like if both people go into the relationship wanting to honestly like be generous
Yeah.
and give and love well, how much more can, and I think that's true in friendships, right? I think that's so important
Hmm.
in friendships, like to be able to do that. There's a quote that I really like, that if everyone shows up to a circle, um, needing help and wanting to know how other people can help them, no one gets helped. But if everyone shows up to a
Mm.
circle willing to help just the one person to their left, then everyone
Wow,
gets help.
that's powerful. Huh.
And that's so good.
Yeah.
It's like so
Hmm.
simple, but
Mm.
how often do you go into like a networking event or you go into a situation and you're like, okay, who do I need to meet to like accomplish my
Hmm.
next career move or my next business deal or whatever? But actually, if people show up and everyone was just willing to help just one person, right? The one person to their
Yeah.
left, it's like then literally the whole circle like would get help. And like, who doesn't need help, right? We all need like one another,
So true.
and it takes a village, right?
It
And
does.
so,
Hmm.
yeah, I love that quote. Okay, Heather, this has
Mm.
been so talked with so many good practicals. I feel like
Yeah.
it's been like amazing, but also really practical and everything in between. You got real, which I knew you would, and I'm grateful because I know it's going to help everyone listening so much. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that we didn't talk about that you feel like, man, if I'm like talking with someone who's single, who's really struggling with
Sure.
singleness, this is like what I would share with
Man, honestly, it's probably so basic, but just be present and live in the now
them?
and get on the timeline, not of this world, but get on the timeline, like in a sense for yourself, and enjoy the things. Do the little things. Like you said, go to Paris, go have fun, um, seize the moment, just go. I think that's kind of my biggest takeaway is just enjoy it with
I
so
love
much joy because,
Yes.
like I have a best friend as well that has she has two children now and a newborn. And, it's like I get to see life. Like it's so great because we get like access into their life and we get to see in the day in and day out in a sense. And for me, it gives me that perspective too. It's like, oh no, you know what? I'm gonna be present here right now while I'm single. I'm just gonna do these things and I'm gonna do them with joy and I'm just gonna have so much fun and I'm just gonna go
Let's
for it.
go. Let's go. Let's
So I
go.
would say it's simple, but just be present with the ones around you. And if you're kind of stuck in that point of self-pity or being sad or disappointed or even like rejection, go serve a ministry, go serve a nonprofit. um, that will really help you kind of get out of your rut too, is putting others before yourself. Something will
So
change.
good.
Yeah, because it's like,
Yes.
doesn't it release like serotonin too?
Oh, I'm sure.
Something.
Yes. Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
definitely, yeah. Our therapist friends can
Yeah.
definitely help us out with that, which
Yeah.
we have on deck for future podcast episodes. But oh my gosh, Heather,
Sweet.
this has been so, so good. We're so grateful for you taking this time today. So we'll wrap up this episode, but I just want
Mhm.
to encourage those of you who are listening. We are definitely a grassroots project, but our
Mhm.
heart and our passion is to be able to honestly get as many singles into this community as possible before the holidays. So we are like really eager to get a bunch of people to not experience the holidays in a negative way this year, but to actually have them
Good.
experience it in a way that is joyful and they know their value and they can go into those conversations with all the family members confident in who they are and being
Mhm.
able to celebrate who they are. So we want you to share this podcast with a friend, a coworker, a single family member, whoever you may know that you think might also want and be worthy of being celebrated. You can also check out our online course. If these podcasts are meant to give you kind of a can opener, kind of a intro to the idea of thinking differently and experiencing singleness in a new way. But our online course is actually chock full of practical steps, exercises you can do, different ways you can implement some incremental steps with community or different people in your life. And you can find that online course at www.celebratingsingles.com. You can also get more amazing content on Instagram at Celebrating Singles. So we are going to drop a new episode each Tuesday. So get ready, get excited. We're pretty pumped. We have an amazing lineup. If you liked Heather's podcast today, give us a thumbs up, give us a share. We're super grateful for you, Heather. We loved celebrating you today. I'm so grateful for yes, this chat has honestly helped me, so I'm super grateful. All right. Well, until next time, guys, we'll talk
All
to you
right.
soon. See you next week.